the earlier we can detect Alzheimer's disease, then the earlier we can apply any interventions, be that medications, drug therapies, or any lifestyle type changes. The reason why my group looks at spatial navigation is because the region of the brain in the temporal lobe that is first affected in Alzheimer's disease is full of brain cells that underpin navigation, how we get from A to B. And therefore our thinking was, if we then devise a test of navigation, we may be able to find changes that would denote the onset of Alzheimer's disease. The problem with navigation is that you can't easily test navigation using pen and paper, and the standard tests we use in clinic right now for testing and diagnosing people with early Alzheimer's are largely based around pen and paper tests. You can, however, test it if we use new technologies like virtual reality, and that's something we've been doing for the last few years with quite a lot of success. And what we found is that those people who had early Alzheimer's disease were particularly affected, impaired on tests of navigation. And that for us proved the idea that testing navigation was good. But as importantly, if not more importantly, what we then did was we then compared the performance of these patients on standard tests of thinking. So these are the kind of standard tests of memory, thinking skills, the sort of things we do in clinical practice. But we chose gold standard tests. And what we found was that our test of navigation performed better in terms of identifying those people with early Alzheimer's disease than this range of gold standard tests. Where we're going now with work that we're doing at UCL with some other partners around the country is we're trying to take the virtual reality task and put that into clinic. Everything we talked about so far, it's been research work done on in relatively small numbers of people, research participants. Of course, the standard question asked of me is then, well, if this is so good, when are we going to see this in NHS practice? And I've always until recently said, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon because virtual reality is still quite complicated, it's laborious and takes some time. But actually what we've been looking at is those changes in navigation that we identify in virtual reality, we may now be able to detect those same changes with simpler technologies. And augmented reality is something we've been looking at, which is potentially much easier and much faster. And because it's easier and faster, that is then something that could be used in NHS clinics when there isn't much time and there isn't much space, and that's something we're now looking to do.